Hello everyone and welcome back. It's tennis time here on Medill Sports Talk. The Australian Open starts on Monday and the matchup draws were released last night. We're breaking down who's in, who's out, the favorites to win it all, and the underdogs to watch out for. My name is Nick Mantis and I'm joined by Ananya Johari and Connor Yon. Guys, let's get right into it. Ananya, I'm going to start with you. Now, Andy Murray was injured and he's out of this Australian Open, which leaves some opportunities for the other top 10 guys to win this Grand Slam. Who are your favorites to win in the men's singles?
So Nick, when we discuss favorites, we have to start with Federer and Nadal. They're the top two players right now, the top two seeds, arguably the greatest two in the history of the game. So Roger Federer came back last year after a 6-month injury break. He wasn't seated very high, but he still went through the draw, beat 4 top 10 players, including Nadal in the final. And I don't see any reason why he can't do it again. He's in great form, won 2 majors last year. His ranking rose from 17 to 2. And he's already won the Hopman Cup for Switzerland this year. He defeated everyone. He didn't lose a single match. And then Nadal, the top ranked player right now, also won 2 majors last year. And he lost to Federer in the final, but I don't see another reason why we can't see a Federer-Nadal final again this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Nadal and Federer, unquestionably, they're the best 2 players of all time, in my opinion. They're the top 2 major winners, and they're really great players. But 2017 was a bit of a throwback. If you look at the last 4 to 5 years, Roger Federer's last title before 2017 in Australia came in 2012. And Nadal, he won later in the season at the French Open and then again in New York. But before that, it was 2014 when he last won his title. And so when you look at that in the big picture, 2017 is the outlier there. And so I think with Murray out, Djokovic dealing with injuries and just poor play, I think that it opens the door for a couple of young guys, namely Sasha Zverev. He's a 20-year-old, had a real breakout season last year, and he won 5 total titles, 2 Masters 1000 events, which he became the first to do that outside of the top 4, or the big 4, since 2007 when David Nalbandian did it. But he's looking really good. The only thing he hasn't done yet, really, is make a run in a major. He's only gone to the 4th round. That's the furthest he's made it. But I think this year, after a full off-season of working on his stamina, his strength, endurance, he'll be ready to go for a 2-week best-of-5 set major. And then you look at Grigor Dimitrov. He's the number 3 seed coming in. And he had a lot of comparisons to Federer early in his career. I think that maybe hampered him a little bit. It put a little bit of pressure on him. But he's kind of past that now. He's developed into his own player. He's playing the best tennis of his career. He's a finalist in Brisbane earlier this month, and I think he's ready to go for a run of Australia.
I'm also a big fan of both Sasha Zverev and Grigor Dimitrov, but I don't see them winning 7 consecutive matches at a Grand Slam, winning 7 5-set matches. And the main reason I think that is because they have really tough draws here. So if you look at the draw, Sasha Zverev has a chance of facing his brother Misha in the 3rd round, and Misha beat Andy Murray at the Australian Open last year. So that's not going to be easy. Misha is one of the few players who still employs the serve and volley technique. Apart from Federer, there are only a few other players left to do that. Then in the 4th round, he has a potential match against Novak Djokovic, which is going to be incredibly tough for Sasha. 4th round is the farthest he's ever been in a Grand Slam. And it only gets tougher from there. And same with Grigor Dimitrov. He starts with 2 qualifiers. Those can be easy matches, but in the 3rd round, he faces Andrei Rublev, who's upcoming star from Russia. He beat Grigor Dimitrov at the US Open, so he knows how to beat Dimitrov at the biggest stages. So his 3rd round matches against him. Then the 4th round, he's going to face Tsonga or Kyrgios, and both players have troubled him in the past, and they're not going to be easy matches. So I agree that they're both great players, and they'll probably win majors in the future. But I don't think this is the time for them right now. I don't think they'll be doing it right now, winning 7 matches.
Those first draws you were saying, and specifically those could be interesting. Are there intriguing first round draws that you are looking forward to?
Yeah, there are some very, very interesting first round matches. The one that I'm most looking forward to is the one between Thomas Berdych and Alex de Minaur. So Alex de Minaur, not a lot of people have heard about him. He's an upcoming 18-year-old player and who's had like a terrific past 2 weeks. So in the ATP event at Brisbane, he reached the semi-final. He beat Milos Raonic and Steve Johnson of America to reach the semi-final. He became the youngest player to reach an ATP semi-final since 2016. And then earlier this week, he's already beaten Feliciano Lopez, Fernando Verdasco, and Benoit Paire, and he's in the final in Sydney right now. He'll play the final tomorrow. So although he's ranked outside the top 100 right now, but he could be a handful for Thomas Berdych. So Berdych is a former top 5 player, but his career has been on the decline for the past couple of years, and In a first round, you ideally want to face someone who you can just get into stride with, and I think Minior could be a tough opponent for Thomas Berdych.
And Connor, let me volley that over to you. Now, do you have a must-watch in the first round that we got to see?
Yeah, so first off, I really want to see Nick Kyrgios play. He's the hometown guy.
Yeah.
The crowd will be behind him. He's coming off of a win in Brisbane. He beat Dimitrov in the final, and he's looking really good. He's an exciting player to watch. A lot of times the emotions can take him away from the game, and they cause him problems. He's crashed out of majors real early. Last year, he didn't make it past the second round. And so from that standpoint, it'll be exciting to watch. He's playing Dutra Silva, so he doesn't have on paper a tough matchup. But with him, you never know. You'll have the exciting crowd atmosphere behind him. So I think tracking him as a potential threat to make a run, I think that'll be exciting. And also, as far as just a round one matchup to watch, that'll be fun. Juan Martín del Potro has recently cracked into the top 10, and he's playing Francis Tiafoe, the young American who took Federer to 5 sets in the first round at the U.S. Open last fall. And him against Del Potro, there's a lot of power. Tiafoe has a funky swing, so it'll be a fun matchup to watch. Both entertaining players.
Now you mentioned Tiafoe, and speaking about Americans, the top 4 American women all made the U.S. Open semifinal last year. Venus, who ranks first out of those American, followed by Coco Vandeweghe, Sloane Stephens, then Madison Keys. Now Venus did make 2 finals last year, as well as 1 semi in 2017. Now, do you can not only consider, but think that there'll be a resurgence and there will be more, I'd say, competitiveness, not only for titles, but specifically this Australian title as well?
Yeah, so the American women, as you mentioned, had a great time at those US Open. So 4 of them made the semifinals. So Sloane Stephens won the title that year, but she's been very inconsistent since then. She's lost, I think, 6 or 7 matches. She hasn't won a single match since she won the title at the US Open. At the same time, you mentioned Venus. She's had like a second win to her career. She's ranked number 5 right now. And she's never won the Australian Open title. And she reached the final last year, lost to Serena. This year with Serena not playing, she'd fancy her chances. She might be feeling that this is her year, and she can finally add that Australian Open trophy to her cabinet. But at the same time, if I have to put my money on one American woman to reach the farthest, I'd do it with Coco Vandeweghe. She's been the most consistent one among those 4. Yeah. She won all her 8 Fed Cup matches last year, took US to the title. And again, earlier this year, she played the Hopman Cup. She won all her matches. All the US didn't reach the final, but she won her matches. So I think Coco Vandeweghe is the most consistent one, and I think she'd be the one reaching the farthest among the American women.
I think the American women have a chance to make a run in the tournament and do some damage as well, even without Serena. But as far as going all the way and winning it, I think you have to look at current world number 1, Simona Halep. She's been chasing that number 1 ranking for a pretty long time, and that's put pressure on her at times in majors to win and get the number 1 ranking at the same time. And so now I think that she has a chance with Muguruza in her half, struggling with injuries, pulling out of Sydney. With Serena out, I think she's got as good a chance as she's had to win her first major. She's played in finals before. She's made the semis at Wimbledon, so she's ready to win. And also, I'd look at Maria Sharapova to make a run. She's in Muguruza's quarter, and she'll have an open draw. Caroline Garcia is the next highest seed in that quarter. And so I think she could get a few matches under her feet. She's got her ranking back up to 47 after the suspension, and so she could be a threat as the tournament goes on.
Sharapova brought the trophy out, in those ceremonies as well. Now you like Kerber, don't you?
Yeah. So I'm a big Kerber fan, and right now, last year she didn't have quite the great season last year, but she knows how to win this title. She has won the Australian Open before. She won it in 2016, and she beat Serena of all people in the final. It's never easy to beat Serena in a final, and she's been a former world number 1. And right now, her ranking has declined to around 21 in the world. And so the focus is not on her. But I think that can, in a way, help her. There won't be a lot of pressure on Kerber to, perform and, get to the final. But I think, she could make a deep run. And, this year she's been in terrific form. She was the only unbeaten women's player in the Hopman Cup. She didn't even do the single set throughout the Hopman Cup. And she's beaten players like Venus Williams, Lucy Safarova, and Daria Gavrilova this year. So she's on a hot streak right now. She's won 8 consecutive matches, and she also has a favorable draw. I think except Maria Sharapova, there's no one really in her quarter who's going to stop her from reaching there. So I think we should definitely keep an eye out for Kerber.
Definitely. Now, Well, that's game, set, and match from us here. When we come back, Lauren Rosen, Jordan Klein, and Hogan Davis discuss Isaiah Thomas' start in the Cavaliers and the rest of the Eastern Conference in the NBA. This is Medill Sports Talk.